Hey guys, I just had like a hilarious malfunction just kind of happen where I went to do a live stream and there was a song playing in the background, and then I couldn't turn the song off because like the way the screens were coming up on my, or the messages were coming up on my screen, it wouldn't let me hit the pause button. It was pretty funny. How's everybody doing today? Listen, I did a live stream this morning and I did one yesterday. I think they were both pretty good. I think I'm really honing my craft. And I think it's a good time to do so because, I just listened to Neil Oliver, who I've always liked his style and his presentation and his cool Scottish accent. And he talked about the truth. And he's like, do you want to know the truth? And he's talking about what's going on with our leaders and stuff like that. And he's pointing out that the truth is that they're acting like this. They're doing what they're doing. They're freaking out. They're freaking people out. You know, when I went to the doctors last night, because of this stress issue I'm having with just trying to get through to people in a way that they'll understand, which is easier said than done. So I went to the doctors last night, and they had on City TV, and City TV is doing like man on the street, talking to everybody about Trump's tariffs. Everybody's really scared, and they're going to lose their jobs, and everything's going to be so expensive, and we're talking to people on the street, and we're really ramping up their anxiety. That's all they're doing. They're ramping up your anxiety. And the truth is, the reason it's happening is because so many people, this same group of people, this group NATO, the people that are like Justin Trudeau's talking tough on Trump, and Doug Ford says he doesn't want to mess with us. You dork. You absolute clown. You people, and I'm not passing any judgment here, I'm just pointing out the facts. We're coming up on 5 years that these people who put us into a perpetual state of anxiety, if you're paying attention, have paid no consequences for it whatsoever. And that's what Neil tries to highlight. He says, you know, these people have been lying to us. They've been putting us through a massive psychological operation, or psyop, something I've been writing about over the last couple days, something I've been talking about over the last couple days. And at the end of the psyop, it really just kind of like becomes like George Orwell's 1984, because they're constantly telling us, we're always at war, we're never at war, these are our friends, these are not our friends. COVID is going to kill us all. COVID's not going to kill us all. Wear your mask, and if you don't wear your mask, we're going to get you, and if we get you, it's because you're bad. We are good. They constantly make themselves the heroes of the story because they're midwits. They're stupid. And I'm not, like, stupid is a choice. And people choose whether or not to pretend like they know all the answers when they don't. And usually that's how you get into office, but you just tell people, I'm going to see, I know all the answers. Putin's the bad guy. Trump is the bad guy. Trump's going to ruin your life. He's going to shut down our economy. Buy Canadian, eh? So dumb. It's all so dumb. And by the way, that's what they wanted to do in the first place. They wanted to localize economies. They wanted to make borders. They had to make you think they didn't want a border so that they could really make a border and stop people from going back and forth. This is like the whole Cloward and Piven strategy. There was a thing come up with by two leftist academics a long time ago where they like make everything so bad that the only answer will be to abolish capitalism and bring in a new form of socialist utopia. And at precisely the same time when we're being told repeatedly, artificial intelligence is here. Artificial intelligence is so much smarter than us. Artificial intelligence is going to figure out all the answers of the universe. These people are like, they're trying to take us to war. Seriously? They're trying to scare you into being so afraid of World War III and being so afraid of everyone and anything that you will demand to be protected. That's what they're doing. That's what a psyop is. They make you think that you wanted the thing all along that they wanted. But see, it's a choice. To pretend that you know what you're doing, that you know what's going on. All of these politicians are pretending they know what's going on, and the truth is they are being manipulated themselves. And they're so fake now. They are so fake. They will tell you that they know how to fix it. They have the answers. They don't have a clue what's happening right now. But they're so sure of it, they'll send money to weapons and we'll put boots on the ground. If we have to kill those guys before they kill us, well, that's just what we're going to do, by gosh darn it. That's mental. That's completely mental. Do you not see they're going mental? They're messing with human lives just like they have been doing since the beginning, around March 2020. The Great Reset. Did you hear about it? Did you hear about Agenda 2030 and how it's connected? Did you hear about the bio-digital convergence? Did you hear about the Fourth Industrial Revolution? Did you hear that artificial intelligence was going to be infused into everything, and somehow they knew that in 2016? What it says in Klaus Schwab's book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, is that they knew this was going to happen in 2016. Do you realize that? But if you think any of them is in control of even their own faculties, you don't understand the dynamics of what is happening right now, because it's the mob, it's the ones that they've been pumping full of anxiety that are demanding this stuff. And that's what propaganda is for. You make people believe that they want something that you already were going to do. And they already knew they were going to do it in 2016. Now, did they do it because they're necessarily evil? No. No, people just act out what they believe. Most people just kind of like go along to get along. And the truth is, they knew in 2016, they knew this was going to happen. How they knew that in 2016 is beyond me. That seems like a pretty good prediction. How could they do that in 2016? But the thrust of the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, from Klaus Schwab in 2016 was, look, guys, the Fourth Industrial Revolution is the moment at which our technology becomes immersed in literally everything. Everything becomes almost like alive. And everything is able to interact with everything else. Hey, Daniel. You're so funny, buddy. Everything interacts with everything else. It becomes like a giant mesh. It becomes like a new world. And the downside of that new world is that we have to think about how everything operates differently. We have to think about how our economies operate differently. And there's a lot of people out there telling you that artificial intelligence, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. It's not going to take your job. And at the same time, they're saying it's going to be way smarter than any human being. What? Those don't mesh. Those things don't mesh. At best. LA Fitness, I'm going to the gym. I decided I'm going to go to the gym today. LA Fitness. My buddy Daniel from high school, he's deaf, so he's laughing because I showed him. Awesome guy, by the way. Love you, brother. Those things don't mesh, okay? You can't say that everything is going to be like practically alive, and by the way, way smarter than you are, and tell people, oh, it's not going to take your job. So at best, they're very, very, very stupid. At worst, they're lying to us. At worst, we're in the middle of a psyop, unlike any psyop that has ever happened in the history of the world. There are times that I wonder, has the entire thing been a giant production? Just to get people like all wound up so we can get them to accept this new paradigm, this new world. Like, I haven't actually been to Gaza. So all I've seen is like videos, and a lot of them are faked. A lot of them, they're set up, they're psyop-ish. The same thing goes for Ukraine. But we're told, like, all of these people have died. Oh, my goodness. Oh. But really, behind it all, they knew that the economic system was coming to an end. And they knew that, and that's why they started the whole fake pandemic in 2020. Almost 5 years ago now. They wanted to shake you up. They wanted you to be afraid so that you would accept something new. But, like, did they do it intentionally? No, I don't think so. If you watch these people and you watch their faces, there's like real raw emotion. I think that they all think that everything they're getting told is real. But if you read the book by Michael Aquino, who was a Satanist, who was a psychological specialist in psychological behavioral modification in the Army in the United States, he wrote this book called My War, and I brought it up before. And in the book, he says you need to, like, there's a page where he says, at the end of it all, once we start the mind war, everybody will have to be in the mind war. Everybody. All the governments and all the intelligence agencies will be working against each other. But they're not really working against each other. See, they're working against us because we were the problem that they identified in 2016. All of the business types identified that the real problem are the loose cannons. People like me that don't buy into the propaganda and the programming. I'm the problem for their new system. And if you don't think that makes me a little concerned, well then, perhaps you think I'm not human. But it's like Jordan Peterson said at that one time. He said, like, the only thing worse than speaking out is not speaking out and having like the worst possible consequences of all of our inaction become manifest, become true. That's what happened in communist states. And at the end of those communist states, they basically stomped on the ones that wouldn't agree. And millions of people died. Millions. Communism has killed millions and millions of people. But see, we've forgotten that here in the West. We forgot it so much that we let it infect our universities and the minds of our best and brightest of our youth. And so I will wrap it up with this. What you believe matters more than anything else. Because if you don't really know what you're talking about, you can be convinced that you're actually a really smart person that's doing really, really smart things. And I'll give you an example. My neighbor, who is the sweetest woman, she's an Indian woman, Hindu, and her little boy, whose name I cannot remember, but he's just 19 months now, and he was out yesterday. And I was out in front of my house. I bribed my kids into, like, there's a big snow pile on the front, and I bribed my kids into, like, hacking it down and putting it on the road so that when it rained today, it would not melt, like, directly into the foundations of our house. And so we're out there, and they're doing that. and she was taking her little guy for a walk. Hey, Erica. She was taking her little guy for a walk, and he's so adorable. He's like, but he's just like his little shoes, and he's just kind of standing there. He's just like looking, and he's like pointing at things. He points to the cars, and like, oh, what color is that car? And like, I just absolutely love baby. I love them all. I love them all. They're the best. But while we were outside, and I was talking to her while the little guy was wandering around doing his thing, I said, what do you do? She's like, oh, I'm back at work now. He's in daycare. I'm back at work now. I'm like, what do you do? I always like to know. I always like to know something about the people that I'm talking to. It helps you get a sense for where they're at. Just like I spoke to a nurse and a doctor last night. You got to meet people where they're at. And this lovely woman, I can't remember her name. It's Indian. Like, it's challenging for me because I was raised obviously with all these English names. But the sweetest couple. Both like very intelligent. Her husband works in some kind of like housing management or something in Toronto. So they're both well-paid, well-disciplined professionals. And she was telling me that, well, actually, I work in policy for the government, and her job is to see how well people's climate change, propaganda, education packages, like how well they're working. Like, are they convincing the kids to believe it? That's what she measures. And she just finished her PhD. And her PhD, I said, well, what was it on? What was your thesis? And she said, well, it was on just that, like, measuring if people are believing what we tell them to believe, more or less. And it's like wild. Like, she's saying that I work for the state in 1984, and I make sure that she works for Big Brother. She makes sure that the propaganda is sinking in, and she measures it, and it's like break down a statistical analysis of like, are we propagandizing them enough? Where should we propagandize them more? They're not believing us. Well, we know everything, so we better make sure that they do what we say. That's kind of like what's been going on since 2020, right? And I said to her, have you ever, like... Oh, the other thing she said to me, she was like, oh, well, part of my thesis was seeing how countries, like in the developing world, are disproportionately affected. It is bananas. How certain countries are disproportionately affected by climate change. And I said, that's always a funny word. That's a funny word. It's like using rhetoric to trick people into believing something that is not true is true with numbers. Like, so I said, there's 1 billion people in China. There's 1.5 billion people in India. There's 2 billion people in Africa. All less than developed countries. And the most resource per person use is in the West, obviously, the most developed countries. So if we're talking a pure numbers game, and there's like half of the people are poor and don't use as much as like a small subset of the people, well, it's always going to be disproportionate. Of course there's more of them. So it's going to be disproportionate. Like, that's mental. That's not a thing. That's just like clever lying. It's propaganda. And I said, well, wait, but let me ask you another thing. I said, are you a climate scientist? And she says, well, I went to university and I learned some stuff about climate change, so I know about it. I go, well, have you ever read any books critical of it? Like, have you ever read Michael Schellenberger's Apocalypse Never, which takes the perspective of people that actually live in these areas where we're having like these environmental causes, and people that buy, like, they create NGOs and they come up with these grand schemes for fixing all the bad things, and the people that are disproportionately affected by things, and they go into these underdeveloped countries and they say things like, well, you can't go over here and you can't do this because this animal is protected, or this kind of plant is protected. Typical environmental jargon stuff. But really, you're not See, the people on the ground are actually the ones that get disproportionately hurt by the philanthropists that they use their money and their effort to basically restrict these people from doing things on their own land. So that's what the book's about. It talks about it from the perspective of a person that's actually gone there and seen who gets disproportionately affected by climate change policy, by propaganda. And I said, well, have you ever read Bjorn Lomborg's book, Apocalypse Never? And she goes, well, no. I said, well, how do you, what he does is he's an actual environmentalist, scientist, but he looks at things like practically. He says, well, if we take away, all of the fossil fuels and all the things that make cheap and abundant energy, the people that get disproportionately hurt the most are the most poor people on the planet. If we take away their ability to develop, because some empty suit told them that, well, you can't do that. That's the worst kind of bigotry there is. Telling people, oh, you just don't understand because you're just like a poor person and you're stupid. It's wild. It's wild that these people think that I'm a good person. There are ways to think about things that don't always have to be alarmist and apocalyptic. If we don't do something, everybody's going to die. Does that sound familiar yet? It should, because it's fucking bullshit. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Anyway, these people they don't know that they're part of Big Brother. They don't know that they're part of 1984. They don't know that they're part of the propaganda network. They think that they're doing a good thing and they're a good person, and they just never considered an alternate way of thinking about things that just shows how empty and shallow the things that they have believed because they've been propagandized to believe it really, really are. What should be what should be the most important thing? What do you think, if you had to ask in your heart of hearts, what do you think is the most important thing that we should help people with? Is it making sure that they can't have better lives? Because, oh no, you're going to die, because if we let you have things, then then you're going to be in big trouble. Trust me, we know, because we have all the stuff over here, and it's not working out very well. So you just shut up, and we'll send in the really important people, and we'll talk to your government, and your government will restrict you from using your resources and restrict you from developing, and we'll buy them off. I mean, we will work with them hand in hand to make sure that environmental policy is being followed and you won't be disproportionately affected by propaganda. But they are being disproportionately affected by propaganda. And these people that are part of the state that do this stuff, they don't even understand what it is that they're doing. But I'm not saying anything about that woman. She's wonderful. Her child is beautiful. I love babies. I want more of them. But you should want the babies to grow up in the right kind of environment. You should want them to be free, and you should want them to promote ideals that lead to the most maximum freedom for all people in the world. You should want people to thrive. And when you start shutting out ways of thinking about things, you subject yourself to being part of that apparatus of the state, the propaganda apparatus of the state. And it's not because you're bad. It's just because there's stuff that you don't know. But you're so you've been told, no, believe this, we know, trust us. They don't know. They don't know what they're talking about, because if they did, they would want people to be free, and they would promote freedom and justice for all. Real justice. And here's the kicker. If you want to know where real justice, real freedom came from, it's probably not where you think. And that's what I talked about this morning, so I won't do it again, but I'm going to go to the gym because I got to do something about my blood pressure, because I just love you guys so much, and I just want you guys to start thinking outside. Don't be made afraid by the only power these people have over us is if we buy into their propaganda. And they don't even know they're propagandizing most of the time. They're empty suits. They're just not very bright. And they are the ones that are going to be the first ones to be taken out by this entire artificial intelligence thing. They don't even know it. They don't even know it. Anyways, interesting times. We need better thinkers. We need better leaders. We need better ways to think about just what it is we're talking about that are not like the idiots on City TV asking everybody, aren't you afraid of the terrorists? Terrorists. That just kind of slipped out. Terrorists, tariffs, terrorists. That's what they're doing. They're trying to make you afraid of everything. So they be like, oh, protect me, protect me. Shut up. You want to send kids to war because you're just such a good person. You're not very bright. I'm sorry. You're an empty suit. You're a midwit. And that's a choice. It's largely a choice. People choose to be stupid. They choose to believe stupid things, even though we see all around us. But we see in the West. We understand that you should protect the rights and freedoms of other people, and you should not censor the truth. The truth is the thing that should be set free. And the truth is that nobody's coming to save us. We need to save ourselves from all of this stupid propaganda. And it's as easy as just like talking to your friends and family and saying, hey, this is kind of stupid. Like, isn't this nut? Like, guys, chill. Chill. It's going to be okay. But not if we let these people drag us into war with all their, oh, Putin's bad, Trump's bad. It's nonsense. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great day.